The boy used to live in a home. Then, for a while, nowhere at all. He slept wherever sleep overtook him. When the weather was better, he had a favorite spot in a park. He worked during the day, only looking for shelter somewhere for the night. All his treasures were in a backpack. He paid a buddy to do his laundry. He didn't expect anything for free. He had a dream, a small house, somewhere in the countryside. He still remembered his grandparents' yard. That's where he ended up in the home after his mother died. Then they died too, and the relatives sold the house. He often dreamed about the yard and the pear tree standing in the middle of it, about the puppy they adopted and his grandmother's jam-filled buns too. Whenever he went to bed hungry, he could still taste them. He didn't trust people. First, the relatives cheated him. Later, people he thought were friends. He was afraid of everyone. Where he worked during the day, they just called him the silent boy. He didn't talk to anyone. He did his job and then kept to himself. Then one day, after his shift, he wandered around the city. He didn't look at the shop windows. He didn't long for anything, just a small house, somewhere in the countryside. Then, all of a sudden, the smell of fresh pastries hit his nose. He was passing a small general store. He was hungry, but he was planning on skipping dinner, since that would bring him that much closer to his dream. But he couldn't resist this smell, and he looked up. As he looked up, his eyes fell on a sign taped to the door that was propped open. Help wanted. Immediate start. Inquire within. He didn't think. He just stepped inside and went straight to the counter. On the other side stood an old-fashioned shopkeeper wearing an apron. He looked about 60. His back was slightly stooped. He spoke politely. "May I help you, sir?" "What can I do for you?" The boy just stood there, and suddenly he remembered the small, rural corner shop where he used to go for bread with his grandmother. The memories were a little unsettling. He felt like he wanted to run out of the shop, but he didn't, because the little house appeared before him. I don't want anything. I just want to work," he said quietly, but looking directly into the shopkeeper's eyes. "The work would actually be after closing," the man replied. "That suits me just fine," he answered a little more boldly. "When can you start?" the shopkeeper asked. "Even today," the boy replied, almost smiling. "Very well, if it suits you, we'll meet at 9 o'clock. He could hardly wait for it to be 9 o'clock. Half an hour beforehand, he was already pacing around the shop, and then, 1 minute before 9, he stepped through the door. The shopkeeper, still standing behind the counter, greeted him as soon as he saw him and added, "Thank you for your punctuality." The boy just stood there. Someone was thanking him for something. He hadn't heard that in a long time. Flustered, he just nodded, and only after a few moments was he able to say, "It's only natural." Just then, the door opened, and a doe-eyed girl with long brown hair and a modest face walked in. She greeted them, then they introduced themselves. The boy carried the crates, the girl stocked the shelves, and that's how it went for days, for weeks. They didn't talk, they just did their jobs. Then one day it was clear the boy was very sick. His eyes were shining with fever, and his face was red. The nights were already getting cool then. "Good heavens, you're very sick. Why didn't you stay home?" the girl asked. "I'm not that sick. I can handle it," the boy replied. But with each passing round of work, he got worse and worse, breathing harder and harder, sweat pouring down his forehead, and then he lost his balance. The girl told the boss that the boy was very sick. "Come, son, I'll take you home," he said to the boy. The boy made excuses, but the man wouldn't budge. Then the boy said quietly, head bowed, "Sir, you can't take me home. I don't have a home." "What do you mean, you don't have a home? Where do you live then?" "Where do you live?" the merchant asked, surprised. The boy slumped onto a chair. The girl rushed out and brought a glass of water. "Have you eaten anything today, son?" the gentleman asked. "Yes, sir. I have lunch every day," the boy answered quietly. The merchant left him there and went away. The boy just sat there, dejected, and all he could think about was that they would soon give him his wages and thank him for his work so far, and then nicely, politely show him the door, just as they had welcomed him. He tried to force himself to stand up, but he didn't have much strength. He sat on the stool, head bowed, when he heard the owner's footsteps. "He's going to bring my money now and thank me for the work." His thought was interrupted by the old man's voice. "Son, eat this nicely. Buzz Zika and I will finish packing. so you stay quiet until then. Then we'll figure something out, he said, pressing a thick slice of ham between two slices of bread into his hand. With that, he turned on his heel and hurried away. The boy ate the sandwich he had been given, tears stinging his eyes. Barely had he finished eating, the merchant and the girl returned. "Come on, son, let's go." And he gently took the boy's shoulder. "Thank you for the dinner, sir. How much do I owe you?" the boy asked. "You don't owe anything, enjoy," the old man replied, surprised. "Sir, I don't—" The boy began to apologize when the old man stood in front of him, looked him in the eye, and said, "Son, believe me, I know what you want to say. I used to, but I'll tell you about that later. Let's go now." And he ushered the boy towards the door. At the door, the boy said goodbye and thanked him again for the dinner. "Where do you think you're going in your condition?" the shopkeeper asked. "The station is still open for a little while. They know me there, they won't turn me away. Then, once it closes, it'll almost be time for me to go to work," the boy replied. The old man walked over to him and took his arm. "You're not going to the station. You're coming with me. Please don't insult me by refusing my help," he said firmly, then took a deep breath and added softly with emotion, "Someone helped me once, too." The boy didn't understand any of it. Up until now, no one had ever wanted to do good for him, except for his grandparents and perhaps his mother. But he didn't remember her. 2 streets over, they stopped in front of a massive brown gate. He had once imagined the gates of heaven to look something like it. It had a huge knocker, and he stared at it in awe. The merchant opened it for him and said kindly, "Welcome, my son." "Thank you very much, sir," the boy replied. "My name is Andras, but just call me Bandy. My friends usually do," the merchant said. And then they entered the house. They stood in the middle of a huge foyer. The boy widened his eyes and gazed at the beautiful, colorful doors. He stood aside by the door, staring shyly. He had never seen so much beauty before. "Come in, my son. Come on in," the man invited kindly. "Take off your coat and come in." "It's going to be warm in here," he said, smiling. As they entered through the colorful door, he was even more amazed. He found himself among beautiful furniture, rugs, and paintings. "Make yourself at home. I'll go see if I can find something to eat," the man said and hurried off. In a few minutes, he returned with a tablecloth and place settings. Then they had supper and started talking. The boy told him about his life, and so did the merchant. It turned out that he had come to the shop as an apprentice. His father had not returned from the front, and his mother was widowed with 2 children. He was 10 years old and of weak constitution. His mother shopped at the small store there, and after a while, only on credit. Then he helped in the afternoons, and he received enough money to support his mother, who had become ill, and his little brother. He knew his work wasn't worth that much, but the shop owner didn't want to offend their pride by making them feel like he was giving them charity. He often praised the boy, but when necessary, he certainly scolded him too. When he was 12, his brother contracted scarlet fever and soon died. 2 months later, his mother died as well. He was left there alone. The shop owner and his wife, who had no children of their own and were no longer young, took him in. They paid for his training. After some time, he was running the shop himself. Then, after his adoptive father's death, he inherited it. His wife had died a few years ago, and they had no children. After they had told each other their life stories, they agreed that the boy could live with him in exchange for working 2 hours a day. And time passed. Then, the merchant entrusted more and more tasks to the boy. He even started receiving tasks at the counter. Then, he took over receiving the goods, and later, he was the one ordering them. Thus, gradually and nicely, he learned the trade. The business also thrived. Then they outgrew the small shop, and soon there were a few shops that he managed, and time passed. But the small shop remained, and when his time allowed, he put on Uncle Bandy's apron and stepped behind the counter. In the neighborhood, it was simply known as the orphan shop. And every day he remembered what he had gone through when, many years ago, he walked through that door that read, "Help Wanted." And whenever he returned home, he always stroked the huge brown gate, the knocker. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe for the next video.